If you're just tuning in, you're listening to The Light right here on 91.7 WLFR Pomona. We're also going to be sharing this information or this interview at AtlanticCityFocus.com and also on 106.5 WPPM in Camden and Philadelphia. We're here with Don Guardian, Republican who is running to be reelected as state assemblyman, and I'm learning a lot because this interview is not going the way I thought it was going to particularly go. But I will say this: I want to thank you, A, for coming, and B, for allowing me to ask what I feel are important questions. I'm not here to relitigate parties. People who know me know I have issues with Republicans. People who know me know I definitely have issues with Democrats as well. But let's talk about your campaign. Okay. And so, with that being said, for somebody who's going to vote again for Claire Swift, and for, I keep saying I love Claire. I'm low key mad she didn't come with you, but I'll reach out and try and get her here. For somebody who is thinking about voting for Claire Swift and Don Guardian, why should we put you back in office?
Because we're going to be the best people to represent South Jersey. We're going to be very fair. We're going to cross lines. We're going to think about our obligation to uphold the Constitution of the United States and the state of New Jersey. I think we are going to be very open to people that feel that they're disenfranchised or that rights may be taken away from them. We're going to be supporting the individuals. We're certainly going to be very supportive of families raising children and things. The old concept of it takes a village to raise a family is very true. It becomes more true if the individual parent is by themselves, if they're a single parent, if they're working 2 jobs, if they're very young when they had the child. A lot more difficult to be, if they don't have the financial means. And so I think the community in general, the neighborhood, the congregation needs to be supportive, and we're going to do everything we can to support families in helping to raise their child. Now, it comes through a lot of means. Certainly the schools help out. Certainly faith-based leaders are going to help out. It could be scout leaders or coaches and things, but we all need to be working together. We also, I think, are the right people because we're very concerned about what the issues are to you today. So in New Jersey, I think it'd be very hard. You can look at any poll or you can talk to anybody. Claire and I probably walk a couple of hundred homes every week. We've hit thousands of homes since July. And the issue is always about the cost of living, about property taxes, about the cost of energy. Then depending on your neighborhood, it could be about safety or cleaning, it could be about jobs, it could be about women's rights. You get into the other issues there, but the main one is always about the cost of living. And so, Claire and I were big on what was the program that gave people back their $1,500 if their property taxes, Anchor program. Okay. I didn't want to use Anchor in case someone's not familiar with it, but yeah, it's Anchor. So Anchor gives you $450 if you're renting, up to $1,500 if you own a home. And then Claire and I have voted for the Stay New Jersey program. In Stay New Jersey, we had to put $200 million a year into the budget for the last 3 years. So in 2026, provided the budget passes, and the budget for the state starts on July 1. So it's a different year than the traditional calendar year. But if it passes, it means that up to $6,500 or 50% of your property tax, the state is going to pay if you live in New Jersey. And the reason is we want you to stay here. People retiring have the time to be mentors, to be leaders, to do community service and things, and they're fleeing New Jersey because of property taxes, and they're going to Delaware and the Carolinas and Florida, and we're better off having them here. And honestly, it's not that big of a cost, and I'll tell you why. If they're spending the money that we give them, they're going to spend it here. We're going to collect sales tax. We're going to collect taxes when they buy gas. We're going to be collecting taxes when they go to a casino. So you're going to get the money back, but I think it's very important to do that. And then just the bigger issue is equality. You got to look at that all the time. Every single issue has got to be based on that. A lot of times today, I would say that we segregate our population, sometimes by choice. You know, you come here from a foreign country, you don't speak English, someone from your village says, hey, I just moved to Galloway, what a great place, it's in New Jersey, this is where you want to come. We have our own bodegas, we have our own mosque, you know, you're going to feel comfortable here. In other cases, you've got to feel comfortable because you got to know that people are going to protect you. You know, with safety, you got to have the perception of safety too, but you know, it's pretty easy. You don't need to be doing a lot of stats on this. Have your mother, your wife, your daughter comfortable sitting in a bus shelter after dark? If the answer is yes, then you know you got a safe community. If the answer is no, then we need to continue to work on that. So,
okay. Well, let me ask you this: you touted some things that you want to continue to do to help all communities. In light of the bill that Trump passed, which he calls the Big Beautiful Bill, I personally don't refer to it as that. I'll be honest, I refer to it as Trump's tax cut for the billionaires. In light of that, will you and Claire be able to help people with these services once that money is taken away and sent to Jeff Bezos and his friends?
sure. So we don't fully realize what the extent of the new federal budget is going to be. Obviously, we're in shutdown right now.
Right.
I would certainly agree with you that President Trump is unorthodox in the way he operates as president. We certainly are not used to that. You know, this last budget, as I mentioned earlier, it does help people over 65 because you don't have to pay taxes on your Social Security. That's a big deal. It's a ridiculous point. Is you work your whole life, you finally get your Social Security check, you shouldn't be taxes on that. You already paid for your Social Security by working. Right. The same thing with his reduction in people that depend on tips. That's certainly not the rich and filthy rich and stuff. That's the average person in Atlantic City that's working. So there are some good points to that, but I think the issue is that health care is really very fundamental. Now, I'm going to justify that. So here's my Republican side. If you can work and you have insurance there, you should be able to pay some portion of that. You got to have insurance. But what about the people that can't? They don't have a job, they're mentally not capable of working, they're physically not capable of working. There's some other issues. They're caring for their parents because they're elderly and can't take care of themselves. They're taking care of their children. We've got to make sure everyone, including children, have health care. So if we're going to be cutting back on a federal level health insurance for American citizens, then we've got to make sure that as a state we provide the services that they had received. And this is just common sense. I'm going to tell you, this would be for all the people that aren't agreeing with the words that are coming out of my mouth. If we don't provide health insurance, prenatal, postnatal, for the child from the time they are in the mother's womb, if we don't do that, it will only mean 20, 30, 40 years that that individual as an adult is going to have some type of disability, some type of disease, some type of health issue that we're going to have to pay for. So if they have no health insurance, they're going to go to an emergency room, and it's cost, I don't know, 50 times what it normally would cost to do that. So health insurance is one of the things that I'm glad in the last 50 years we kind of all on board. With health insurance, I do want to include mental health insurance, because a lot of times we just say, hey, the guy's a druggie, if we can solve his drug problems, everything is good. But indeed, the only reason that people are abusing substance is because it's the only way for them to be happy. You and I might be happy bicycling or eating popcorn, being with family or having hot dogs and things like that.
Right.
These people are using substance excessively because it's the only way that they can not feel miserable. So we've got to look at to what mental issue is. We may have caused it, meaning we as a country. We send them off to war. You don't come back to war unless you have some help getting you back into society. And some of it may have been some abuse, sexually, mentally, physically,
Right.
growing up. You hide that for all these reasons that we don't quite understand in the back of your mind, but all of a sudden at 40 or 50 years of age, it comes out. And then you realize a lot of bad decisions that you've made were probably based on that. So I think health insurance for everyone is going to be real important. We've got to look to make sure we figure out how we can pay for that.
Okay, well, we only have about 15 minutes left. I might have to I might have to go over and creep into some of my democracy now.
Well, WLFPR is going to be happy doing that if they like the conversation.
Okay, so you're talking about how to pay for it.
Yeah, sure.
There's one candidate for governor who wants to put a 10% sales tax on food and clothes. What is your thought on that?
Yeah, so
Is that the way we pay for it?
that's not a correct statement. They asked Jack Ciattarelli specifically what he would do to lower cost in New Jersey. And he said, well, a municipality looks at the best practices of other municipalities. I've got to look at the best practices of other states, and states are very different. And he names a particular state that has no income tax. And he says, they don't have income tax, but they got to pay 10% sales tax. That's his actual statement.
Okay.
And they've asked him, would you propose a 10% sales tax? And he says, I absolutely will guarantee that I will not raise sales tax. Now, I know we've heard that before in our lifetime.
George
no new
Bush.
taxes, yeah, and stuff like that.
I thought I was just a radio station DJ. Oh.
Wow. That's
So I read
script.
somewhere
You
that
might
George
have-
Bush
yeah.
said, read my lips,
Right,
no
absolutely.
new taxes.
Yeah, and then he didn't get reelected. So let's remember that. That you can't have. I don't think you can't raise sales tax, and I'll tell you why I am strongly against that is because that affects everyone regardless of your income.
Well,
So-
tourism is already dying. That would just shove it right off the cliff.
No question, and tourism is everything in South Jersey. We can say that we're doing great things at the airport with Next Generation. We got Stockton in Atlantic City. We're improving Atlantic Care and expanding that. But ultimately, tourism and gaming keeps us alive. It provides jobs for us and things like that. So you make $400,000, this isn't an issue. You make $60,000, $80,000 a year, this is definitely going to affect you and stuff. So you got to protect those people.
Okay, I have to move on. And I know if politicians hate anything, they hate hypotheticals, but I got to hit you with this hypothetical. I'm a resident of Maryland Avenue, which is actually where I grew up.
Great.
So it's 10:30 at night, and the Black Hawk helicopters are over top of my apartment complex, and ICE is coming to shove my grandmother down just because they can. They have no ID, no badges, and wearing masks. What should my reaction be?
Try to prevent them from entering your home, get her out the back door, provide some safety for her, hide her in the attic. I know that if you live along back Maryland, you don't have attics, you don't have basements either. But I think the point with ICE is I can't disagree that we should have closed borders and that we should decide whether it's 1 million or 1.3 million was the number during President Obama's years that you let into the country. There should be some practical way to get into the country.
Well,
If while you're waiting for citizenship, though, you break the law, you broke the rules, you got to go back. However,
how
if I
is
look
shoving
at
my grandmother down to the ground?
you can't shove your grandmother down to the ground. In my neighborhood, and I don't want to pick on people because I don't want to see ICE there tomorrow and things, but in my neighborhood, my 200 units of housing, there are two people that I consider friends. They've been here at least 25 years. They still don't have the American citizenship. You got to provide an opportunity for them to become citizens. They're working, they're paying taxes, they're paying for the health insurance and things. They're an integral part of society and things. They're here because the country they came from, they did not feel safe. They did not want to raise a family or have their children there. They came to the United States for a better life and things. We got to find a way to get them there. So the idea of a helicopter coming above the door and capturing people and taking them away is just not the American way. We're a nation of immigrants. We've got to realize that immigrants is not a bad word and things. They're here because it's better here than where they came from. Obviously, how many people can we have in the country? We have 350 million people or so. So, that million or so seems to be illogical. We certainly can absorb, I'll use that term, because I think most people that are fleeing here may not have the education, the skill set, the job set to be able to take care of themselves, but they're coming here and they're willing to learn. So
Yeah, I can't say anything negative about immigrants. Of course, my people were brought here as illegal immigrants.
but not by choice.
Not by choice.
You have
but,
mine did. My mother and my grandmother came through Ellis Island.
Right,
They
right.
got
However,
stuck in that hospital because
right,
they had scurvy and all that.
However, one of the reasons why I'm on the air right now is because here's a name that the kids are throwing around every day. I studied what Desi Arnaz Sr. was able to do in media. He's the reason why we have videotape.
Absolutely. He's the reason we have two cameras doing a live broadcast.
Exactly. Star Trek, familiar,
Of course.
So, and he was illegal, but he was a legal immigrant. So I don't have anything to say about immigration because I wouldn't be sitting here without immigration.
So
I might be an assemblyman.
Desi Arnaz Senior and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, his family fled Cuba. He came here. He had a very rough life. Had some demons. A difficult life that he had to deal with. But was incredibly successful in terms of the media. He was brilliant. And as we just mentioned, he's the first one that had several cameras filming a TV show. He's the first one that had a live audience, and he's the first one to realize that they should get royalties. If it wasn't for that, actors, actresses wouldn't have royalties today. So this, and he had a studio, Desilu, I think it was called.
Desilu Studios,
and things like. And Lucy was very talented, but he's the one that made her successful financially.
Yeah, people don't see. We're about to go down another rabbit hole with 7 minutes left. I have to every once in a while, even though I'm just a radio station disc jockey, I have to educate my audience. And so, for people who love I Love Lucy, she was at least in her 30s, close to her 40s by the time that took off. She had done several other projects. She had worked with the Three Stooges. She was always funny, but it took Desi Arnaz Sr. and I Love Lucy. She did have a show, My Favorite Wife, that was on radio, and they wanted to bring that to TV. And so she said, well, if you bring it to TV, I want to work with my real husband, Desi, and history was made.
Yeah, and they worked together in the on stage.
Yes,
because he was a great band leader. I mean,
Babalu, wonderful band leader. Yeah. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to the Light sounding like the Me TV network history, but you're listening to the Light. It's myself, Raymond Tyler. It's Assemblyman Don Guardian, and we're coming into the home stretch. Listen, this has been wonderful having you sit in with me, and I look forward to having you come back whenever you get the time, because I still didn't get a chance to ask you about book bans. When I first met you, It was with regards to minority mother's health with Kaleem and Mandy.
Yeah.
So I know that's an issue that you're an advocate for.
Yep.
But right about now, we got less than 5 minutes. So I'd like to give you the last word to again talk to us about your campaign and why we should vote for you this November.
Okay, so I've mentioned a number of issues. I'm hoping that most people have been listening to the length of this, and so I'll try not to repeat myself. There's some issues that are very specific to Atlantic City, and when I say to Atlantic City, I really mean South Jersey. So from Cape May up to maybe Tom's River and out to Camden, gaming is very important.
Yes.
Back in '76.
Absolutely.
The only reason gaming came to New Jersey after failing once before is because people said, we don't want it in our backyard. If Atlantic City wants it, God bless them, only in Atlantic City.
Everybody
and
wants
then
it.
5 years ago or so, they tried to get it in North Jersey again, and resoundingly, the entire state voted no, it should only be in Atlantic City. Now, we have 2 Democrats. I usually don't just pick on Democrats, but there are 2 Democrats that have introduced legislation that wants to allow casinos up in the Meadowlands and things. That is foolish for the state, because if we do have a casino up there, it'll just close a couple of casinos down here. That's number one. So there's no additional money that's coming into the state. Number two is this is a way of life for people down here in the Meadowlands, in Essex, in the Hudson, in the Bergen County. There's lots of other opportunities for jobs down here. 25,000 people rely on casinos to stay up. So that's got to be a very strong issue. We've got to fight that very strongly. Casinos belong here. They pay about $1 billion. If you had all the taxes and fees a year and stuff, stop being greedy, state of New Jersey and stuff, and keep the industry strong. Yes, there's going to be competition from New York, but let's keep them right here. The same thing with the convention center. They're trying to build a convention center up in the Meadowlands as well and stuff. That would be a disaster because they're saying they're going to compete with the Jacob Javits in New York City. That's ridiculous. I spent the first half of my life in North Jersey and things like that and stuff. You went to New York because of the theater, because of Times Square, because you were visiting, because of food and things like that. You ain't coming to the Meadowlands to go to a convention center. You're going to be competing with Atlantic City, and so both convention centers are going to lose money because the same convention is going to go 1 year North Jersey, 1 year South Jersey. So those issues that really have a negative effect on us down here. We need to be doing what other cities that have progressed in the last 10, 15 years. And I'll use Camden as an example, and yes, that's a Democratic-run city. And I'll use Jersey City, and yes, that's a Democratic-controlled city. Doesn't make a difference. Very smart planning. They said, we've got to do something to entice builders to come here to build new businesses and to build both market rate housing and absolutely affordable housing. Both together. You got to have that affordable housing so someone's paying property tax to take care of everyone there and things like that. We haven't done a good job in Atlantic City. We used what was IAT money, that's the money from casinos, through the CRDA that goes directly to help the city. That money needs to go back to help with development for new jobs, to help existing businesses in Atlantic City. And then we've got to do the same plan that Jersey City and Camden did, and that is there's DCA money, for one, that can be used from the state. We just haven't been good on tapping that. So we need to be tapping some state funds, some federal funds to help us here. Energy is going to be a big crisis. You want new jobs, you got to accept AI. You accept AI, you got to realize that it uses an incredible amount of energy. We've closed 6 plants. You can blame it on everybody. The point is the plants are closed. How do we move into the future and stuff? We got to find new sources of energy. Right now, 50% comes from gas and 40% comes from nuclear and things. We got to look, can we add nuclear down in Salem where it's already been for the last 35 years? Continue the plants that are working down there. We've got to look at Forked River, which is where they closed the last nuclear plant. There's mini nuclear that's right on the cusp of becoming available and things. It's cleaner than most of the other energies. We got to look to that. We got to make sure that if people want to use solar, that we help them use solar. And then for everyone, we've got to realize that just raising the minimum wage isn't enough to have a decent kind of living. In my neighborhood, the homes that I live in, I'm talking about the inlet in Atlantic City and stuff. Just 4 years ago, they were renting for about $1,500 to $1,800. Now they're renting at $2,700 a month. So you went from your $8 an hour to $15 an hour. It doesn't pay for an apartment to rent. So we're throwing people on the street. And we have enough issues with not knowing how to deal with homeless, not spending enough of our resources to help them. The last thing we want to do is throw people out of their homes. So those are the real big issues. Bigger issue that we need the state and the federal government is the amount of lead. We're an old state. We have a lot of lead in our water lines. We got to fix that up and help with our infrastructure. We got to make sure that we're taking care of that, as well as clean water, because that's going to affect everyone's lives. So we've got to look individual by communities. I think those are the big issues that we've got to deal with. Safety issues, now we're getting down into the nitty gritty, but we know that e-bikes have gotten out of control. So we got to figure out how to provide safety training, just like you do for a car, for kids that are bicycling, and then what do we do? How do we license them? How do we insure them? How do we make sure that they're legal when they're on the road? So that's an issue as well. And then, go ahead, we're out of time.
It's the second time I've had to say this week. Time is the one thing I can't control, Assemblyman. I apologize. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to The Light right here on 91.7 WLFR Pomona, here on the campus of Stockton University. Coming up next will be Democracy Now!, but I will give you the opportunity to say this. If people want more information about your campaign, about Claire's campaign, about what's going on with local Republicans, what's the best way to get that information?
Guardianswift.com. Is our website. You can go on that all the time and things. You certainly can call our office, but that's not for politics. That's strictly for help with what your needs are in Atlantic County. You'll see me. We were here last week on campus with
that's right,
pizza,
on the 24th.
pizza with students and things like that. So that was kind of neat. And things have been to the same kind of program in Rutgers in Camden. And things, so it's good to connect and see how knowledgeable college students are about how government works and issues that are facing them. And certainly the cost of living, the cost of education becomes a big part of it. We didn't even touch on that. Maybe next time we can touch on how do we get cops and firemen and teachers and the medical industry, because people don't want to enter those services and we need them desperately. So whether we're helping with writing off the cost of education, if you give us 10, 15 years of service, or whether we're giving them a better program for retirement, we've got to look at how we can get teachers and police and firefighters. So those are issues that are bigger issues, but certainly facing us.
Yeah, also next time when you come, I'll definitely have to ask you about your position in the arts. That's something that's big to me.
Absolutely. Be happy. We could spend a whole hour on that and things. It's real important.
Definitely. All right. Again, I apologize for having to wrap up so swiftly and succinctly, but I do thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us. Please tell Brett I said thank you for setting this up. Tell Claire she got to get here. No, tell her I asked about it.
I'll see in a few minutes. We move our office to local areas. We're going to be in Brigantine today at the community center. So in about 35 minutes, I'll run into her. I certainly will pass on.
And if I don't see her anytime soon, I will see her Tuesday. Because the debate is going to be...
debate, right here.
There's going to be a debate right here in this building.
Yes, indeed.
At the Campus Center Theater. Thank you again. Any quick last word?
Nope, that's it. Thank you. Great to be back on WLFR.
Thank you so much. And again, you will be able to check out this interview if you missed any part of it at AtlanticCityFocus.com. My name is Raymond Tyler. We do the light Monday through Thursday right here on 91.7 WLFR Pomona. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday you can hear me on 106.5 WPPM in Philadelphia. Do not ask me when I sleep. That's above my pay grade. So I hope you have a great day and a wonderful weekend. And as always, if you've been listening in your, well, you haven't been listening in your car, but you can always listen online at WLFR.FM. Up next, Democracy Now!
Be there at 6 o'clock and being involved with the Q&A after with the Oscar nominee.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I really appreciate it.
Nice interview and stuff. Thanks.
All right. So I didn't beat up on you too bad, right?